know Jeff has referenced a few times about the NDP having a costed platform, and I just wonder how, when we don't know what the books look like. We see that already with this discrepancy with what we found out with the Auditor General. And I know that the PC party is talking about going into the ministries and reviewing everything and hiring a third-party independent review and really relying on the experts, because we don't know how bad it is. If we already have a deficit, the difference like we're talking now, that's scary, and that's really gotten the attention of a lot of people across Ontario, particularly in our community. And I've heard it at the doors time and time again. I've been door knocking now for months and months, but especially these last few weeks, and there's a great concern for that. Grant, you'd like to ask me a question? I'm ready.
So, no, I mean, just to that point, if you're going to have a look at the books as they exist now, what, if you formed a government, would be put in place, and this is the same question I just asked Joe, to ensure that a Conservative government would be accurately reporting the deficit? Benoit's point is that this is an accounting dispute, not a real money dispute. I mean, do you accept that? And what position, or what policies can you put in place to ensure that when it comes time to report the books, that deficit is accurate?
Well, and again, that's when we would lean on the experts, and we would have people in place to review that. Is that good?
You still have time.
Okay, you gave me that look, and so yeah, that's my answer. So I'll hand it back over to these guys.
Riding in the entire region faces a very, very unique challenge. We have the oldest people in Ontario. We have the second oldest people, oldest population in Canada. That provides some unique challenges for healthcare here in this region. So I'm wondering, what is your party's plan to deal with that unique problem here? What strategies could be used here in Niagara Centre to help relieve that problem? Not a cookie-cutter approach for healthcare, but for our aging population, we're ahead of the curve. We're going to be experiencing the demands of that population before other parts of Canada will. And we can be the leader almost in that. So how do you see long-term care, healthcare for that specific population here in this region?
Well, I think that when you know that your population is aging, prevention is really more important than anything else to begin with. So things like home care that can actually, so we can take care of people in their homes rather than admit them to the hospital, which costs many, many times more. So we have to work on those preventative measures. In the NDP platform, there are a number of those measures, including increased money for home care, more money for long-term care beds, and we also are looking at changes to the Patient Care Act, so that one of the things we've seen in the region, and it's heartbreaking, is couples who have been together for 40 or 50, 60 years and they get separated. And we want to make sure that that will never happen in Niagara or anywhere else in Ontario.
Would you be interested in, I don't know, I was talking to somebody in the region today about pilot projects and looking at really unique new ways to deliver healthcare to older people?
Yeah, I can give you one. I was looking at the Port Coburn strategic plan the other day, and one of the things that they are talking about anyway at their council is using the urgent care center at Port Coburn, since part of it is empty, to give some of those rooms for free to doctors, because they're having a really difficult time getting family doctors in Port Coburn. So you can use space in our existing hospital system to incentivize to get family doctors to Niagara, and I think those kinds of creative solutions are what is really required.
I'm going to take a little walk, got to stretch. You know, and this is something I've been talking about all night. You know, I just want to thank April because, you know, at the region, I always see her. She's always in support of my healthcare motions. You know, great job on that as the chair. Appreciate that a lot. But here's the thing. I'm going to say it flat out. I've been through it, and I'm tired of watching people I went to school with and people that I know and people who are my friends overdose. I'm tired of it. I'm sick and tired of it.
Stephen,
we need to change it now.
Sorry to interrupt you, brother. It's just, the question is actually about our aging population.
Gotcha.
And specifically, what can be done in the region to improve healthcare for seniors and those who are older?
Well, seniors can have mental health and addictions issues too. So anyway, here's the thing. I have fought tooth and nail for the immediate restoral of mental health, pediatrics, orthopedics in the Welland Hospital. I've been to the region fighting for it, and I told them if they didn't listen, I was going to take the fight to the province, and I'm doing that.
I was looking for suggestions about different service delivery models.
Okay,
different
fair enough.
Ways that we could take not a problem, but a situation in which we are unique and we cannot have a cookie cutter approach to healthcare for this region for our elderly population. We just need to be doing something new and different, and that's what I was looking here.
So as a child and youth worker, I say more therapeutic approaches all day long. No more treating our patients like they're in the hallways, like some of my opponents have said. None of that. More therapeutic approaches. It works in child and youth work. It can work with our seniors. More long-term beds. Zero tolerance on elderly and child abuse. Boom.
All right, with the libertarians, we're all about competition, and I wrote this down, so I want to read it right. So we want to have average per person healthcare funding to be attached to the individual, not to OHIP. We want to allow competition by allowing non-government insurance options in addition to OHIP. And we want to allow healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, and technicians to work for OHIP or non-government providers as they see fit. And one more thing to touch on this topic of healthcare. A lot of our money is going overseas because people can't get healthcare here. One example is Lyme disease. I know a lot of people that are traveling to other countries, spending thousands of dollars on treatments there. And if we just allow doctors to treat it here, all that money can stay here in our economy. So we need to open up competition in healthcare. That's our view.
I like what you said. No cookie cutter. Healthcare, whether it's for the old or the young, for people with mental health issues, for addiction, should not be treated as separate things. And we're going to provide beds for this and forget about that. It's, again, taking from one to give to another. It's not the way. When you have people with mental health issues going into the emergency wards because you have no other choice or place to put people or give them the help, that's not the way to deal with this. Now, forgive me, I'm going to say this and I've almost regurgitated in my mouth. We could take some examples from the United States with the sense that they provide in several states health coaches, nurse practitioners. It should be targeting. We should be figuring out what our system has right now and what we need versus saying we need another 1,000 beds without dealing with how many nurses and practitioners we have. We should be dealing with mental illness as a health concern as well as addiction.
So we've touched on long-term care beds. We know that that's a huge issue, and we know that mental health is a huge issue, and those are two big things that are impacting the wait times and all the issues with the hospitals. I've heard nurses tell me that they're using at the Welland Hospital rooms that they haven't used in 15 years to have people there. So we're talking outside of the box, not a cookie cutter response. And I'll refer to my experience as the co-chair of public health, as Steve mentioned, at the region, and being a South Niagara mayor. And we identified an issue in Wainfleet with lack of response times for EMS. So we worked really hard to have the region implement a community paramedic. So we only average about one call a day. So while that community paramedic is in their downtime, they are going out and they're visiting all the different residents and identifying their needs, and then repeat visits to see how they're doing. And that is really making a difference in keeping them out of the hospital and not having to visit there. And it's really been working well, and I definitely think it's something that should be looked at in other communities. It really does make a difference.
So healthcare for me in Welland is very important, and I was glad that I was able to contribute in keeping the Welland Hospital open, although I wasn't the elected representative. I will continue to fight for the Welland Hospital, for it to provide the best possible services and to increase services because we do have an aging population, and our seniors are not able to, or are not as mobile as they once were. I also fought for long-term care in Welland. I was Club Richelieu president, and in our budget we just announced doubling the size of Foyer Richelieu. So long-term care, providing services from PSWs in these long-term care, increasing the hours, increasing the therapy for these individuals who deserve to be treated with care. Today the Premier announced hiring 35,000 more nurses to deal with healthcare issues, whether in the schools or in the hospitals.
So is the solution more healthcare workers? Couldn't a solution be how people live?
Well, we do need to prevent situations. It begins in the schools with mental health. So our platform will be hiring mental health experts into our schools to help kids and train teachers to identify mental health issues. Where are you going with your question?
I was just curious, I was looking for me, this is a really important issue. I have parents in their 80s.
Well,
here in
my
Niagara.
parents are here, they're in their 80s as well.
And I know this time is coming for us, and I would like to, I'm also getting older, I'd like to think that we have brain power to come up with some great ideas for this region to be different.
So our plan will provide parents 65 and over up to $700 a year to help them with their grass cutting, snow removal, things of that nature, so that they can stay in their homes longer and continue to provide for their families.
Thank you. I think every candidate's been asked a question now, have they? So what I would propose, we have a few moments left, and what I would propose is just the two of you to ask some questions generally of the candidates, and we'll just seem to get some more answers in things that you haven't particularly got a full answer on, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll still, we can just, Mel, we'll just start with one person and just keep on moving down. And we've got a ton, and I sort of apologize, we have a ton of audience questions we haven't got to, so I'm going to throw in, Fiona McMurray, are you still around? Yeah. Okay, great. So she asked a question, and this, by the way, this is for all of you, it's not for a specific party. If you recall on Tuesday night in Niagara Falls, there was a 3 or 4 hour city council meeting about a development on in Niagara Falls near and on a wetland, which caused a great deal of consternation amongst people. So this is Fiona's question is directly related to that, which is, what would your party do to preserve green spaces and wild places in this riding in particular? And if I may just add my own question, how are you, in the context of that, how are you going to balance the needs between conservation and environmental protection and economic growth and development? 2 minutes.
So that's a very good question, and I thank you for that, because once upon a time I was the Green Party candidate, so I'll go back to those roots for just a moment, though, just a moment. In terms of that, we shouldn't be developing thundering waters. I've thought about this issue back and forth. You know, I've been trying to think and trying, but I'm against developing thundering waters, because once wildlife sets up an ecosystem, you can't just move the ecosystem.
Stephen, sorry to interrupt you. I'm asking specifically about this riding, not the Niagara Falls riding.
Okay.
What would you do to preserve wild spaces, green places in this riding, and find a balance between conservation and the economy?
Well, you know, as I said, you can't, in terms of the ecosystems, you know, you can't move ecosystems and expect it to be the same. You can't move the wildlife and those rare species. They've been set up there naturally, and so you can't move them. This biodiversity offsetting is not accurate. You just can't move an ecosystem. That's biology 101. So, you know, I'm going to say development has to go where there aren't those precious ecosystems. You know, if we do have to develop, and we do need to have those dollars in place to develop and have people come in and get those tax revenues, but we have to be very mindful of the ecosystems. We have to be very mindful of the environment. So we have to develop where those aren't taking place, and we have to have more careful studies at the city level, and we need to work with our municipal partners to make sure whatever city, it doesn't happen where an ecosystem is completely torn down. You know, we got to put that in place, and we got to make sure we build far enough away from the ecosystem and the environment to implement that in terms of conservation. Thank you.
Okay, Malcolm, did you want?
2 minutes each, and then we can just go through, because we're running close to the end of the time.
Sure, so that is a pretty difficult question. I'm not against the environment and anything, but at the same time, there's also property owners. People have rights to their property. I've heard from people that have soil in their backyard. It's been grown over, it's not a conservation, well, it still says on paper that it's wetland, but it's a lot, like it's gone. And people are fighting this because they want to put up a shed, they want to put something up in their backyard, but they can't because that's their property, but they're telling them they can't because it's a wetland. So some areas, you have to look at it and think, is this actually what it says? Is this actually a conservation area? Is this actually a wetland? Sorry about that?
Speak, please.
Okay. So yeah, we just have to remember about the property owners too, because people did pay for properties, and we don't, like I've heard of people say that conservation officers just come in on their land, just walking around, just inspecting the place. You have to respect the private property as well. You can't just walk on people's land and tell them what to do with it. Thank you.
In 2006, the Ontario government put out a plan for building, allotting land for development. Only 20% of that land has been used. Developers have been sitting on 80% of the land, speculating, letting the heat of the market in Hamilton, in Toronto, drive up prices and sit there going, ooh, can we go out there and get that green belt now? And then we have this whole fiasco of a leader saying, yeah, we'll develop that in a nice private meeting. Then turning around and saying, no, we're not. And then having another leader say, well, we'll protect it. Well, why didn't you say that before? Like we're playing games with each other here. That's wrong. Why aren't we saying, you have 80% of the land sitting there dormant that's been allotted to you to develop on it, or you're going to pay more tax. If you have dormant properties that are sitting there because you're speculating, start paying more tax. The progressive conservative government will take away the foreign taxation rate, 15%. That stopped and cooled the market a bit. What happens when that gets removed? Speculation again. We're going to start seeing more foreigners come in, buying up houses and properties and sitting on it. And then us, the taxpayers, sitting there going, well, I can't afford a house anymore. Is it better to rent or buy? And we're having discussions that we shouldn't be having. Where's the independence that we used to have as citizens 20 years ago when it was not a right, but a dream that everybody could buy a house, or at least have something to call their own? It seems to be disappearing as people are fighting about whether we should or shouldn't develop. There's 80% of the land out there. And let's not talk about farmland. Sustainability is important. Food security is important. We're taking away more and more beautiful farmland, because it's beautiful, so that people could build on it. What happens to water, irrigation, storm surges? What happens? No one's taking it in balance.
So I'm going to use that word balance. And I think what I've seen happen in the time that I've been elected in municipal government is that pendulum swings completely over here, and then it swings completely over here, and we can't seem to get it in the middle. And like I said before, we do need affordable housing, but we have to be consistent. And I think that a lot of the messaging and a lot of the policies coming from the current provincial government have been inconsistent, and that's made it difficult for the municipalities and then the upper tier levels of government. And I know, I think this question stems from wetlands, obviously, and there was that time they talk about in 2006 where the MNR flew all over Ontario and designated so many areas wetlands, and some people didn't even know that was happening to their properties. And so I've seen it in my time as mayor where somebody has a piece of property that's their nest egg. They either want to sell it and profit from it, or they want to build their dream home on it, and they can't because of a boundary line to do with a buffer zone for a wetland. So there has to be, and I'm not saying that you have to completely completely get rid of that wetland by any means, but there has to be a little bit of wiggle room and compromise. And I think, like I say, there is inconsistency, and you can go to the municipality and be told one thing, you can go to the region and be told another thing, and I think that we have to have clearer policies and, again, achieve that balance.
So as a Liberal, we're into saving, not paving over our green belt. Our green belt is very important. And I agree with Stephen, biodiversity offsetting does not work. I am a science teacher, a biology teacher, and as Stephen has said, the ecosystem is that ecosystem. You cannot recreate it elsewhere. But we do have to have some balance. We did expand the green belt 17 times over the course of the last 15 years. But we do have to find some balance in order to allow for progress. I'm not against progress. I live in Hunters Point community in Welland, and there's a big redevelopment project to get rid of the golf course over there. So there is wetlands, there are ponds, there are turtles, there are some species in there that we need to protect. So our government is all about protecting the environment, making sure that our farmers have the land that they need in order for us to be fed, and hopefully that we can, if we're re-elected, we can continue to expand the green belt, because we only have one planet. I can't say to my son, go off and get your own planet. This is the only one that we have.
Just to play devil's advocate for a moment, though, I'll take your point about protecting the environment, but the other half of that equation, the other half of that balance, is development. So how do you govern that?
So we need, as my counterpart from the Green Party said, there are developers that are sitting on land right now. Let them develop what is available. We have the Grow South policy in government. North of the peninsula is saturated. So let's start building south. Let's bring people south. Let's make sure that people are aware that Niagara is a place where they can come live and grow, and let some lands there be developed so that we can create that balance.
So I don't believe in the Thundering Waters development, as it's provincially a significant wetland. I definitely don't believe in biodiversity or biodiversity offsetting, because it's a ridiculous theory. And I was horrified the other day to listen to Rob Ford talk about the Greenbelt as if it was or Doug Ford talk about the Greenbelt as if it was a biodiversity offsetting project of his own with his buddies in the back room. And here in Niagara specifically, we have a conservation authority that I believe has gone rogue, and they've gone way over to the development side. It would be nice if we had a conservation authority that, instead of being made up of regional councillors, it had people on it who knew something about conservation. That would be nice. And
the question specifically, though, Jeff, is how do you propose to manage those competing interests between conservation on the one hand and development on the other?
Well, I would continue the work that Cindy Forster has been doing, calling the Conservation Authority to account, asking the Auditor General to look into the Conservation Authority, and suggesting ways that we can make them more responsive to conservation efforts. They're not supposed to be a development authority. They're supposed to be a conservation authority. This nonsense about balance, there's all kinds of people that want to develop, and they all have lots of money. The reason we have a conservation authority is to keep those people in check. And that is what a conservation authority is for.
I've got a real time saver question. It's a yes or no. I've got a time saver question. It's a yes or no. That I really want to know, because I looked in a couple of places. So would your party commit to continuing the ministry of the status of women? Yeah, just say yes or no.
Yes or no? Yes or no? Here's the question. Is the party I got thrown off?
Yeah. Yes, but do you support the ministry? Do you support maintaining the ministry of the status quo?
Absolutely. That's a joke. That's a joke question.
Excuse me, it doesn't matter. I just want to hear what the answers are. Go ahead,
No,
please.
it's not a joke question.
You know, we're making up
Go ahead.
a gender thing for.
All right, the
Excuse me,
candidate's
sir.
here to answer questions. Sir Patrick, please.
They're asking if you would
Okay, we're down to the last part of our program now. And that will be the candidates giving their last 2-minute speech. While we close here with that, I just want to thank everybody for helping me with the timelines. I certainly needed it. Jeff, you would be first, please.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you to the Niagara Center Board of Commerce for hosting this debate. Thank you all of you for coming out. It's great to see such a large audience so early in the campaign. It shows that people are interested and engaged. I just wanted to wrap up by expanding on the theme of healthcare and why I'm involved in this election, why I decided to put my name forward. 5 years ago, my dad had a major stroke, and he ended up in the wrong hospital in Niagara and ended up laying in an emergency room for 36 hours with no care while his brain died, and he ended up paralyzed. He then went on a 5-month journey through the hospital system, and we have what's called a hospitalist system, where you have a different doctor every week. I know a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about, with no continuity of care. And these kinds of stories are all too common. And we have to put an end to this. There's no reason why we can't take care of our family, our friends, and our neighbors a heck of a lot better than we're doing. And so I hope that, and I want to leave, I have a 10-year-old son. I want to leave a world to him that's much better than the one that we have here. So I hope that you all take a good hard look at the NDP platform. It is complete, it is costed. It has some great suggestions on how we can improve our healthcare system, provide opportunities for young people. It's very exciting that we could have the first pharmacare program in Canada, an extension of Tommy Douglas' dream many years ago. And it's really worth taking a look at, and I hope that you'll all consider it. Thank you very much.
So as I stated earlier, on June 7th, the people of Niagara Centre will be making a critical choice about our future. It's either care or cuts. Cuts to service proposed by the Conservatives, and a fiscally irresponsible plan put forth by the NDP, or a bold and ambitious plan that lays the groundwork for a solid footing that is needed to build an environment that creates the jobs of the future. Our economy is in transition, and in order to attract good-paying, middle-class jobs, the voters of the riding will need a strong voice at Queen's Park. What we need is a cheerleader for the riding. I will be that cheerleader. I am the only candidate who has given his time and energy to make our community in Niagara Centre better. I question my opponent's commitment to our riding. Are the best interests of Niagara Centre in their hearts, or will their decision be self-serving for the communities outside of the riding that they live in? All of my working life, I've represented hardworking members of our community just like you. It has taught me that a strong local voice matters. That voice has been missing, and we need it back. I'm running for you because I live in the riding. I'm running for community members who want that strong local voice to be heard. So on June 7th, for all these reasons, I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Niagara Centre Board of Trade and Commerce once again for hosting this debate. I know it takes some time to put this together. And again, thank my colleagues. I haven't done a debate in a while. We didn't have one in the last mayoral election. So this was good to get warmed up, and I know we'll have many more to come. And again, I want to thank you, the residents, for coming out. This was a great turnout tonight, and I'm really glad to see everybody here. And like I said earlier, this is an important election, and it is a clear choice between two parties that will raise your taxes, increase the debt, and where hydro rates will continue to skyrocket. The PCs will lower taxes, respect your hard-earned dollars, and provide better health care. And I'm running because I have 2 children. I've worked hard. I've opened up those $400 hydro bills a couple summers ago. I've had to tell the kids we have to wait on some things, and I worry about their future. And that's why I'm running. I've been involved in the community myself for a long time. Again, fighting for the Welland Hospital, fighting for the Port Colborne urgent care, working hard at the region, working with my colleagues there, talking to all the mayors once I decided to take this journey, talking to the CAOs and the mayors and finding out some of the issues that I might not know about about Niagara Center that I didn't know from being at the region. So I'm looking very forward to the next few weeks, and I think it's very important, as I mentioned, that we need a seat at the government table. Niagara Center is on the cusp of some great change. We already see that happening, and it is so important that we need a seat at the government table so we can get those things, like I mentioned earlier, infrastructure funding, to help the municipalities grow and have what they need. So thank you very much.
Hands are sweaty. Things are rough. People are out there having a hard time financially. They ask about why they're paying so much for power when in Quebec or even in the United States they're getting it for a pittance to us. People are asking why I'm spending so much on water every time I get a bill when companies like Nestle could pump out of the ground for $5 a million liters a day. We're asking why we're paying so much at the grocery store for food that should be cheaper than what's packaged and set up and shipped in from China. People are asking why we are in a situation where we're counting every cent we pay into taxes, into cost of living, and wondering why we're ending up short. I think there's a balanced approach that can be followed here with the Green Party. This isn't a choice between parties. No way. This is a choice between conscience, what we think is right for us as people, what we think we need for our province. Each party has its own benefits and strengths and weaknesses. I just hope that you'll look at our party, see what we offer, and see that there's something in you that might find us interesting. Give the Greens a chance. I think we'll provide you with a lot of positives in the end. Thank you very much.
So you've heard from everybody, and how many people here have heard of the Libertarian Party before this? Oh, wow, that's pretty good. Nobody knew the leader's name. Anyways, we've heard from all the big parties here. They want to be your cheerleaders. We don't need a cheerleader. We need somebody who's fighting for the people in the riding. We don't need big government giving us free handouts with our own money. Somebody has to pay the bill in the end. I would like if you could consider the Libertarian Party this year, because we're the only one that's fighting for property rights, the only one that's fighting for homeschoolers, the only one that's fighting for freedoms. So if you guys can look at the platform online, just think about it, because there's another option up there, not just the big three parties, the big four parties, there's another option up there. Thank you.
You know, I'm going to say this. I like all my opponents as people. I think they're great people, and I think they do really care about our area. But they represent a party with money interests and political interests. You know, yes, Benoit, you do live in Niagara Center, but I live in Niagara Center too. And you know what? And I'm not a liberal. Sorry, Benoit, it's the last time tonight, I promise. You know, Jeff Birch, I don't know you, but if you win, you're buying me a coffee. You have an important choice to make in this election, though. In all seriousness, you can choose more of the same, or you can choose someone who's gonna fight for this area. On my own time, I go to the region all the time. I fight for the important issues. I listen to my friends. You know, out in the community, if they have a problem and the younger generation, I go and listen. I spend time with them because I honestly, truly care about this area. I care about families. It's in my nature to care about all people in this area because of my work as a child and youth worker. Because, you know, we only have so much time before our deficits get higher, our debts get higher. We can't cash out on our children and grandchildren's future. It's enough. You know, my great-grandfather, who was a politician, he was an elected official for the township of Crowland, you know, before it was amalgamated with Welland, he said to my family, he said to my father, who's sitting over there, yeah, you, you know, he said,